Marie Arana, how did this series begin? Where did the idea come from?
Oh, boy, Peter, what a thrill. Absolute thrill for me and for, I think, book lovers everywhere. This came up as cocktail conversation with David Rubenstein, a good friend, and we would always say when we saw each other, when are we going to do the TV show? And I thought this was a joke. And so I would always laugh and say, we're too old. And suddenly I was in his office for another reason, and he said, well, no, for the reason that you're coming to visit me, but how about our book TV show? And I said, you're serious? And he said, I'm completely serious. I've been serious all this time. And then I realized you don't talk to David Rubenstein that he's not serious. So this was back in the fall of last year. And here we are. About to launch with the first taping. And I am just absolutely over the moon about it.
Marie Arana, what is your history with the Library of Congress?
I was most recently the literary director of the Library of Congress. I had the absolute pleasure, it's the best job in the world, to put together contemporary authors' work and fold it into the extraordinary institution that the Library of Congress is, as the great cultural keeper of literature and so much more. But to actually work contemporary fiction and nonfiction into that extraordinary monument of world culture, really, was a thrill for me.
What's your connection to the National Book Festival?
From the very beginning. I was there at the very beginning in 2001. I was there as an author. My book was American Chica at the time, which was my memoir. But I was also there as the books editor of the Washington Post. And I have to tell you, once we heard that First Lady Laura Bush and Librarian of Congress, Jim Billington, were creating this book festival, we had been trying to create a book festival at the Washington Post for at least a year. We'd been visiting all the book festivals. And then suddenly when we heard this announced, we immediately wanted to get on board. I called the Library of Congress right away. I talked to Jim Billington. I called the White House. And so the Washington Post became the first charter sponsor of the book festival. So from the very beginning, it's been 25 years. I hate to say I'm that old, but I've been around since forever.
Well, speaking of charter sponsors of the National Book Festival and patrons of the Library of Congress, joining us now is David Rubenstein. Mr. Rubenstein, how did you get involved with the National Book Festival to begin, and has it been all 25 years?
It hasn't been all 25 years. I wish it had been. Jim Billington, who created the National Book Festival at the suggestion of Laura Bush in 2001, he ultimately got me involved with the Library of Congress in their support group called the Madison Council, and ultimately I became the principal sponsor of the National Book Festival. And if you're the principal sponsor, they make you the co-chairman. So if somebody wants to be a principal sponsor, they can be the co-chairman as well. And so I've done it now for about a dozen years or so, and I have really enjoyed it. And I want to thank C-SPAN for covering the National Book Festival, because over many years, people who can't come here get to know about it by watching C-SPAN, and your interviews in particular. You've covered it for quite some time. And I want to thank Brian Lamb, who kind of invented the idea of doing a serious book interview on television. Normally, if you go on, you're promoting a book, you go on the old days, Johnny Carson or some show like that, and you get about 2 minutes to talk about your book. Brian Lamb would let people on, and they would talk for 45 minutes or an hour about a book, and you actually could learn something about the book by watching an interview. When Brian Lamb retired from that, you took over some of that, and you can actually learn something about a book and know whether you want to read it or not by actually listening to these interviews. So the idea for this was to have a serious interview discussion about a book with great authors in front of a live audience, and largely at the Library of Congress. The Library of Congress have been very helpful in this regard, and I would say that we expect to open it very shortly. As you know, and C-SPAN is going to be covering it, and we're very pleased with that. And C-SPAN promotes the idea of having serious discussions. We hope to have a serious discussion, and the first one will be with John Grisham.
Why did you agree to host it? When Marie and I approached you, why did you agree to host this thing?
Well, I guess I enjoy interviewing, and the reason is this. I have to read the book, because my theory is if you're going to interview somebody about a book, you should give them the courtesy of reading it and you know what you're talking about. So this forces me to read books, and I think as you get older, as I am now getting, you want to keep your mind sharp. And so if you read books and you have to interview somebody, you keep your mind sharp. So the Library of Congress, C-SPAN, Marie Arana, you, a great combination, Sam Feist, who's the CEO of C-SPAN, everybody thought this would work. You know, we hope it'll work, and we're really looking forward to it.
And it's fun to be able to announce it today with the host and the executive producer of America's Book Club. Kicks off, the tapings begin on September 15th. Marie Arana, besides John Grisham, who else do we have?
Oh my goodness, we have a whole bevy of people from every corner, really, of literary production, should we say. We have Justice Amy Coney Barrett. We have an extraordinary string of other biographers, nonfiction writers, fiction writers. It's the idea behind this, Peter, as you know so well, and as David and I have talked about for so long, is really to get beyond just one book, get behind the obsessions, the ideas, the creativity that drive an author's work in general. So we're talking about a career. We're talking about a life dedicated to a certain kind of production of a book, and the things that obsess a writer. We don't often talk about that. We talk about, you know, what a book delivers, but not what goes on in the mind of the creation of a whole series of books. And every single one of the writers that we have has a actual history with the business of writing a book, and of reading, and of getting information across in this very almost solitary private way, and then producing it for a great public, and then having the ideas go forth. And that's what we want to get to, is just actually the creative process. So, you know, this is something that I think that is new. I mean, we don't have enough of that cultural conversation in the country today. So this is what we're doing, trying to do.
What I think we also want to do is encourage people to read books. In our country today, 21% of adults are functionally illiterate. They can't read past the 4th grade level. 50% of adults can't read past a 6th grade level. We want to encourage people to read and to actually enjoy books. And many people who enjoy books think it's one of the most important things in their life, is reading books and meeting great authors. We want to encourage people who don't read very much to read books. It's nice to read a tweet, it's nice to read a memo, but there's nothing that focuses the brain quite like reading a book. And by meeting with really exciting authors, we hope to encourage more people to get excited, but not only about themselves, but getting their children to read. Most people learn to read with the help of a teacher, but also their parents. And if the parents get excited about books and they get excited about teaching children to read, it's going to be better for our literacy. Right now in the United States, we are 38th in the world in literacy, 38th in the world. And that's not very good. We should be much higher in terms of literacy of our adults.
202 is the area code for all of our numbers in case you have a question about America's Book Club, about books, about reading, for David Rubenstein and Marie Arana. 748-8200 is the number to dial if you live in the East and Central time zones. 202-748-8201 for those of you in the Mountain and Pacific time zones. Now, if you want to send a text message in, send it to this number, 202-748-8903. Please include your first name and your city if you would. David Rubenstein, how did you and Marie Arana become friends?
Well, Marie Arana has been involved in the Library of Congress for quite some time. And so we have a program at the Library of Congress where I interview great authors in front of members of Congress. It's called Congressional Dialogues. It's been going on for about 11 years. And for a long time, Marie Arana was helpful in getting the people to be the ones I could interview. And so what we do is we try to get members of Congress to come together on a bipartisan basis, listen to the authors. They have a dinner that's apolitical, and so it's been going on for quite some time. Members like it. Marie was very helpful in getting that off the ground and making it work, and now she's been very helpful to me in the National Book Festival and helping to get a lot of authors to come here. You know, we have 87 authors here now, But in the early days, it wasn't easy to get authors so easily, and Marie Arana helped get authors here. So I got to know her over the many years.
Have you ever met John Grisham, who is the kickoff author for America's Book Club?
I have met John, yes, and he's an incredible person because he writes not only fiction but also nonfiction. He's trained as a lawyer, as I am, and like me, he probably didn't like to practice law and got out of it.
A couple of the other authors who are appearing on America's Book Club. Walter Isaacson, Pulitzer Prize winner Stacy Schiff, Amy Coney Barrett, as Marie mentioned earlier, and Schiff, Jose Andres.
Yes.
Now, of all the authors that we have on, Arthur Brooks and David Gran are also on America's Book Club at this point. More authors to be seen and to be added. But have you interviewed all of these authors before?
I've interviewed most of them at some point or another, not all of them. Amy Coney Barrett I just interviewed this morning, but I've interviewed Walter Isaacson many times, and Jose Andres I've interviewed, and he's quite an interesting person to talk about. A great chef, but also a great book person. So
you just interviewed Amy Coney Barrett, and we're going to have her on America's Book Club. What's going to be different at the America's Book Club event, which is being held at the Library of Congress? Well,
we have a live audience. Very often when you're doing interviews here, you're not having a live audience. So we're going to have a live audience of people who really care about books and hopefully care about the author. I think that'll make it more exciting. And also, you're covering the entire interview. So very rarely do you get a 45-minute interview about a book on television.
Marie Arana, how did the group come up with the list of authors that we came up with? What was that process like?
Well, first of all, we wanted to get a variety. And there is a huge distance, I think, between someone like Arthur Brooks, who writes about happiness, and someone like David Gran, who writes about, adventures that go wrong, and obsessions that, bite the dust. So there's a great variety. We wanted to get that across. We also wanted to get a balance of people who may write books, may not have a career that you think might be as an author, Jose Andres, but who are passionate about books and whose books actually speak to people in a very different way. I mean, there's nothing like food to talk about in people's lives, and I think there's nobody who talks about it more passionately and who has been so compassionate about giving his food to the world as someone like Jose. So we're very excited about that. And there is I think what I really love about this is that we're doing it in different venues. We're doing it in the Library of Congress, of course, which is the greatest institution in the world, cultural institution in the world, but we're also doing it at the Folger Shakespeare Library and the National Archives and the Enoch Pratt Library in Baltimore. So we are mixing it up with great institutions and libraries in the country.
Can we give a preview and tell them who we're trying to book at the Enoch Pratt Library? Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead.
Well, I think actually David should say this one. Cal Ripken. Cal Ripken.
Sorry?
Cal Ripken.
Oh, okay. Okay. I wasn't going to say it publicly, but okay. Let me explain. Tonight, in a few hours, I'll be going to Camden Yards. We're going to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Cal Ripken's breaking Lou Gehrig's record of 2,130 games in a row. He ultimately did 2,632 games. And we're going to have the big celebration tonight. A lot of famous people will be there, baseball players. But he's the person I will try to interview at the Enoch Pratt Library.
And what is your connection, David Rubenstein, to the Baltimore Orioles?
Well,
anybody know?
For better or worse, I'm the principal owner and the chairman of the board of the Baltimore Orioles right now, my hometown team. And so we have a game tonight. We had a great game yesterday. We had a walk-off home run by one of our great young players. We won against the Dodgers. We'll play against the Dodgers tonight as well.
And so we're hoping to get Cal Ripken. We're working on getting Cal Ripken on America's Book Club. He's a literary advocate for Baltimore in many ways. So,
yes. And David is a native of Baltimore. So this is a big deal.
You grew up in the Enoch Pratt Library in a sense, didn't you?
I spent a lot of time there as a young boy because, in those days there wasn't the internet. If you wanted to go get a book, you had to go to the library. So I went to the library a lot.
How often did you go? How many books were you allowed to check out?
Well, when I was a boy, you could check out 12 books a week, and so I would check out 12 books, but you had to wait a week to get another 12. So I would go home, read the 12 books, and then I had to wait a week to get 12 more books. but I enjoyed it, and Pratt Library was a great place for me.
What is your day job, by the way?
The day job is I am still the chairman of the board of the Carlyle Group, which I started in 1987, and that's one of my day jobs. I also am the chairman of the board of the University of Chicago Board of Trustees. I'm chairman of the board of the National Gallery of Art, chairman of the board of the Madison Council, chairman of the board of the Economic Club of Washington, and the chairman of the board of the Council on Foreign Relations. So those things take some time as well.
And the Orioles.
And the Orioles take some time.
And I should mention, he is interviewing, what is it, 4 people today? 4 authors today in one day. 4 books, 4 authors, which is extraordinary. And nobody else does it.
I would say that the toughest part of America's Book Club was the scheduling, getting David Rubenstein's schedule together with John Grisham's schedule together with the Library of Congress's schedule.
Absolutely.
No, it was not.
It's a Rubik's Cube, absolutely. And we've done it. We did it.
I want to thank you for giving us attention to this matter, because it's not easy to get on this show, and we appreciate you giving us the time.
Well, let's hear from some of our viewers. Let's talk to Jackie, who's calling from the Villages in Florida. Hi, Jackie. Go ahead.
Hello, from the Villages, sunny Florida. I'm thrilled, absolutely thrilled. I just found the festival on TV while I was surfing, waiting for tennis. And I have a question. What time is the book club going to be on? She said the 15th.
Jackie, that is a very good question. Let me take that one. We are starting our taping schedule on September 15th. And we have 7 or 8 all planned out for taping. The next announcement that America's Book Club is going to have is our official air date. I think it's fair to say Sunday nights. Is that correct, Richard Weinstein? Yes, I can tell you they're going to air on Sunday nights, probably starting in October, but I don't have an official start date for you yet, Jackie, but we'll get that for you, and you'll see that on C-SPAN. Steve is in Ridgeville, South Carolina. Hi, Steve. David Rubenstein, Marie Arana are our guests.
I just have a quote, because if you do not know how to read, you do not know how to decide. Thank you.
Well, it's a very important point. In this country, sadly, if you cannot read, you have a really sad economic future, probably. For example, 80% of the people in the juvenile delinquency system in our country are functionally illiterate, and 2/3 of the people in federal prisons are functionally illiterate. And if you're functionally illiterate, you not only probably can't get a very good job, but you have very little chance of teaching your children how to read, because children learn to read from their parents, and if you can't read, how can you teach your children to read? So it's a very vicious cycle and a very unfortunate situation.
Really good.
How do we get out of it?
Well, I hope America's Book Club can inspire people to read, but we have to encourage more people to learn how to read. Don't be embarrassed if you're an adult and you can't read. There are many adult learning classes. There are many ways you can learn how to read as an adult. And if you can't read as an adult, you have a real disadvantage in life. And you can maybe fake your way through it a bit, but the truth is the people that learn how to read generally have a better life, in my view.
Our next call comes from Steve in Ridgeville. Oh, that was Steve, I believe. Dallas in Greenville, North Carolina. Go ahead, Dallas.
Good afternoon. I'm honored to be on and appreciate all the work that y'all are doing. I'm having a surreal experience because I was typing my 4th novel. I have 21,000 words. When I came on and saw the interview with the gentleman about the atomic bomb, I ordered it from Amazon. It'll be here tomorrow. And then y'all come on and you're talking, and it's just amazing. I wanted to let you know that I was in the Marine Corps from 68 to 71, and had an experience that probably was the first innocent project experience. And I wrote a novel about it. It's a 200-page novel, but a lieutenant was killed. The prosecutors prosecuted a man and later thought he was innocent. They came to me, I was a lawyer with the Marines, and said, we need to see if he's innocent. And I investigated that, and when I was inspired to write a book, that was the subject. And it's on Amazon. I got some very nice reviews for a debut novel. And
hey, Dallas, I appreciate that. I think we're going to have to leave it there. We've got a lot of callers on the line. David Rubenstein, Marie Arana, that caller mentioned the Innocence Project. John Grisham has written
Absolutely.
about the death penalty. In fact, his last nonfiction was along this lines, wasn't it, about injustice in the
Absolutely,
systems?
absolutely. And to support David's point, John Grisham would never have been a writer of popular fiction had he not been a reader first. He was, I think he stumbled into writing. He had watched a crime trial that he wasn't even involved in. He was a young lawyer. He happened to be in the courtroom. He watched something that absolutely broke his heart. And that was A Time to Kill, which was his first novel. I think they paid him $5,000 for it. It was a huge bestseller around the world. But he didn't begin as thinking that he was going to be a writer. He began as a reader. He began as somebody who was a compassionate person who happened to be in the courtroom when this story went down about a young girl and why her father was made to kill. So, that's Grisham.
John Grisham is a testament to the fact that there is life after law school and after practicing law.
Yes.
And also, don't be discouraged if you get rejected. I think a number of his early books were not accepted by publishers, and eventually his wife encouraged him to keep going, and eventually he wrote bestsellers.
Right.
Now, here is the first little tchotchke, I guess you could call it, for America's Book Club. This is a gold brass-plated bookmark. And if you are one of the first 25 people to email us at booktv.org at C-SPAN. Let me try that one more time. I think I'm having a stroke. booktv at cspan.org is our email address. You're one of the first 25. We'll send you one of these lovely little bookmarks that we have.
Those.
Stephen in Los Angeles texts in for both of you. Who is the most interesting author you've met and why?
Well, I've interviewed lots of authors over the years, and somebody that has enthusiasm for the book. It's one thing to be a great writer, it's another thing to be a great raconteur about your book. And two of the people that I think are the most interesting in terms of the way that they were so excited about the books was one, David McCullough. David McCullough was a great writer, but when he talked about his books, you had such an excitement about wishing you had been there with David when he was writing the book. And then the other is Doris Kearns Goodwin. When Doris Kearns Goodwin talks about a book, she really has such enthusiasm about it that it just is captivating. And as she says, she falls in love with the people that she writes. And she spent 10 years in an affair with Abraham Lincoln. And the result was one of the best books ever written about Lincoln, Team of Rivals. And so both of those are people who wrote great books, but also interviewing them is such a pleasure.
David Rubenstein, have you seen that Dory McCullough, his daughter, David McCullough's daughter, has finished his book, History Matters? I don't know if you've seen that yet or not.
Yes.
I just got that on my desk. Marie Arana, first, same question to you. Most interesting author that you've met and would want to share with people?
Well, that's a very complicated question for me because I started my career as a books editor. And I, was passionate about every single one of the authors that I published. And then I went into book criticism as the books editor of the Washington Post, and thereby, a flood of writers there that I might choose. I would just, say, I truly admire people who can take headlines and transform them into incredible fiction because you feel like you're reading right off of the newspapers.
Such as
Margaret Atwood, such as Barbara Kingsolver, such as Jodi Picoult. Fantastic writers who just grab information off of the news and make it into absolutely dramatic, prepossessing fiction that will move anybody.
Now, you are both nonfiction authors. Bolivar, Latino Land.
Yes.
Why did you choose those topics, and are they related?
Oh, super related. They're part of a monument that I was trying to build and am trying to build. I don't think we know enough about Latin America. I happen to have been born in Peru. I had half a Latin American childhood. Came to this country as an immigrant, 9 years old, and found that, nobody knows much about Latin America. And so I've been trying to build this construction. It's been in memoir, it's been in fiction, I've written novels, I've written 4 nonfiction books, trying to capture the history and trying to describe the population of Latinos, 65 million people in this country. And that's been my project. So my writing is geared specifically to that.
David Rubenstein, is there a theme through your books?
Yes, I have a kind of a trick to writing books that makes it easier. I take a lot of the interviews I've done, I summarize them, and then I write an overall piece to kind of explain the book and so forth. So it's a lot easier than writing a novel where you have to sit down for a year or two and start from scratch. I'm taking interviews I've already done and kind of repackaging them a bit, but people haven't read them before. At the moment, I'm working on 4 books. One will come out not too long from now, I hope, which is a summary of the best interviews I've done at the Library of Congress over the years in the program I talked about before. Then I'm writing a book about what it's like to be a sports owner, and I have interviewed a lot of other sports owners, and we're going to talk about what the pleasures are and the downsides of being a sports owner. Then I have a book coming out I'm working on now, what it's like to be an interviewer, how you should interview people, and how you should be an interviewee. Now, how to be a good interviewer, but also be a good interviewee. And the last one is on saving American history, which I hope to get out in time for the celebration in the nation's capital. How I've tried to kind of save American history or preserve it, I should say.
Such as a constitution at the National Archives.
Things like that, or the Magna Carta, the Washington Monument, Lincoln Memorial, things I've been involved in the restoration of, and just one man's view on the importance of history and preserving it.
John in Oceanside, New York texts in, I blame the lower literacy rate in the U.S. on the schools. That's where he starts, and then he goes on a bit. Are we doing something wrong to begin when it comes to literacy if we're 38th in the world?
We must be doing something wrong because North Korea is in the top. North Korea is ahead of us. So we must be doing something wrong. I don't know who I'd blame it on, but it's a problem, and we have to get higher literacy rates if we're really going to be competitive in this century.
Brian, Pottstown, Pennsylvania, you're up next. Please go ahead.
It's very nice to talk to Mr. Rubenstein because I've kind of watched some of his projects, and he put so much money in fixing the Washington Monument. I think that was a tremendous choice that he made. But I can remember he's reading 12 books a week. I was reading probably one a day, but mostly fiction when I was young. And when he was reading those 12 books, what percentage were fiction, I guess, would be the question.
Very good question. Thank you, Brian.
I am not as good a fiction reader as I am a nonfiction reader. I have the theory that if I'm reading a book, I want to learn as much as possible, and I think I can learn more from nonfiction, but I realize the pleasure may be different. I've started War and Peace about 12 times, and I have never finished War and Peace. So I guess there are some great fiction books I've written, but I know better nonfiction, how to get through those books better than I do fiction books, but hopefully I can change, and maybe someday I'll write a fiction work as well.
Can I just toot David's horn for a moment and say that his books are extraordinary because you actually learn a whole string of history from each one of them. So in terms of nonfiction, even though you're constructing it from interviews that you've done, there is a narrative in each one. And it's really impressive the way that he treats nonfiction and history books.
Well, last year was an actual investment book, How to Invest, but prior to that, How to Lead.
Right.
And that was U.S. presidents, correct?
Yes.
I did one on presidents recently called The Highest Calling.
Yes.
On how to lead, it was people who were business people or some political figures, presidents as well, about leadership, and then a book on American history and so forth. The format I have works for me reasonably well, which is to take the interviews I've done, edit them down, synthesize them a bit, and then write a summary of them, and then write an overall summary of the whole subject matter. So, are you going to write a book?
Well, I wanted to talk more about your process in writing. Do you write at home? Do you write in the office? Where do you do it? Do you write in the owner's box at the Orioles games?
The best thing to do is to have nobody calling you, bothering you, anything for a while, and if you can get 24 hours during the day, actually sit down peacefully to write something, that's great, but that rarely happens. So I'm on an airplane, I'm writing, whenever I have an hour or so, I kind of write something up and hopefully it all gets put together at some point.
Marie told me a story the other day, and I probably shouldn't tell this, but I'm going to tell it anyway. She said that at one point you called her and said, "Okay, what do you got for me?" And you already had 3 television shows, 14 jobs, and one of your television shows is about longevity now.
Yes, correct.
Is this a new interest, or have you always been interested in that?
My theory is when you hit 55, and I'm well past 55, you worry more about your life living longer than before, because 55, you've lived more than you're likely to live, right? So increasingly, I'm worried about living longer because life is enjoyable in certain cases, and so I have done a series from Bloomberg. I've not all done out, but the first one came out and not long ago, and it was on the subject of obesity, which is a big problem for living long. Then the second one was on cancer. The next one is on dementia and Alzheimer's and so forth. And I am interested in it. And for people who want to live a longer life, the best thing to do is have good genes, but also keep your weight under control, limit your alcohol intake, don't smoke anything at all. If you can avoid it at all, that's a good thing. Also, exercise, get a fair number of sleep, have a relationship, have a purpose in life, and you'll live longer.
Well, last night at the opening ceremony of the National Book Festival, held at the Library of Congress, the acting Librarian of Congress spoke, and we want to show you a bit of what he had to say.
For 25 years, the Book Festival has gathered lovers of reading and the authors who inspire them for a day of conversations and discovery. Festival goers will learn about the hidden gems, historic treasures, and innovative work happening at the nation's library. They'll also participate in a range of interactive, family-friendly activities, take a literary trip around the country by visiting the Roadmap to Reading. Are any of our Roadmap to Reading folks here tonight? Oh. They are a fabulous group. I hope you'll stop by and see them tomorrow at the Roadmap to Reading. And when I was with them this afternoon, the Georgia contingent gave me a pin, and it says, "Reading is peachy." So thank you very much. They're just a really great crowd. Tomorrow at the festival, we'll hear from more than 85 distinguished writers for readers of all ages. And this evening, we're going to be treated to presentations from 5 of our renowned authors. Assembled in this auditorium tonight is an extraordinary gathering of talent. But before we begin, we have many to thank. First and foremost, the United States Congress, the library's chief benefactor since it was established in 1800. No library in history has enjoyed such long-lasting and generous support. I often like to say that the Library of Congress is the best gift that the Congress ever gave the people of the United States. It is our cultural patrimony, and there's no other institution on earth that has the creative output of the American people like the Library of Congress.
Marie Arana, how long have you known Robert Newland, who has been at the Library of Congress since 1975 off and on?
I have known him for 25 years, all the 25 years of this incredible book festival. Robert has been at the library, I think, for, was it 45, 47 years?
Yeah, since 1975.
Since 1975, and he has been a rock for the library. And as much as he thought he had retired and gone away to another life, he was brought back to run the Congressional Research Service, and now, of course, is the acting librarian. He's a wonderful human being and a great, great asset to the library.
David Rubenstein?
He's been at the Library of Congress for 47 years, but there are people more senior than him in terms of longevity because the Library of Congress attracts people who love books, love reading, and they stay for their entire working career. There are a number of people there who I've met who've been there for 50 years, and it's not the most highly paid job in Washington, D.C., but people there love the books, There are about 3,300 people now working at the library. It was more years ago, but 3,300. And these are dedicated people, and they're not highly paid, but they just love books, they love reading, and they love helping American people.
Besides America's Book Club books, do you got anything else on the table that you're reading?
That I'm reading.
You're interested in?
Well, I'm interested in longevity. I'm working on that right now. I'm trying to finish the book on what it's like to own a sports team, and I'm dealing with the frustrations the team didn't do that well this year. And you know, when you're an older owner like me, it's hard to tell 21-year-old players you got to go hit the ball harder or do some other things. So I don't really know how to tell people who are 21, 22 years old how to play baseball better. So I don't know.
Is this your first couple of years as a sports owner ever?
I'm now finishing my second year, and when I bought the team, the previous year they won the American League Division East, and now we're in last place. So my ownership hasn't really helped that much so far.
Hope we don't have any Orioles fans out here.
So I can try to do a better job.
But is sports management a unique management style?
Well, sports has grown exponentially in terms of fan interest in the last 10, 20, 30 years, in part because streaming is there. So many nationwide TV contracts are available, but also betting has encouraged more people to spend time on sports. And also college sports have become almost professional sports in some ways. So people get a vicarious thrill or if a team does well. Like, for example, I'm the owner with some other people of the Orioles. If you live in Baltimore and the Orioles do well, why are you so excited? I mean, you're not going to get richer by that, but it's because you feel like it's part of your DNA that the team represents you. And so people are passionate about their home teams, and I think that's good.
Let's hear from Maggie in Boca Raton, Florida. Maggie, please go ahead. You're on with David Rubenstein and Marie Arana.
Good afternoon. I had the privilege of working at the world's greatest repository of organized knowledge known as the library for 40 years in the Congressional Research Service with Robert Newland. I want to thank Mr. Rubenstein for all he's doing for the library. And it's a thrill to see so many people at the book festival. I had the privilege of volunteering there, and if you notice, there are people from all walks of life, all ages, who all love reading, and it's just a thrill to see that this is still going on. And thank you, Mr. Rubenstein.
Thank you. The Congressional Research Service, where she was at, basically, if you're a member of Congress and you have a question, you ask the Congressional Research Service, and they give you an answer. They get thousands and thousands of requests each year, and they do a really, really good job. And so it's something she should be proud of. That's one of the best parts of the Library of Congress.
Steve, Huntington Beach, California. How about audiobooks for increasing literacy? What's your take on audio and ebooks?
Audio has been an enormous force in publishing, you know, and I know this myself because my books, very often, my royalties that come in are just as great for audio as they are for print. And it's a great way to reach people. People are busy, they're active, or they're driving, or any number of things, or they want to be read to sleep. And this is an extraordinary boom, I think, for books in general. You can't count it as literacy. It's not the sort of literacy that David is describing. But it is still cultural information that is being taken in. We are, every minute of the year, being drawn more and more into digital access. And just the being read to is a different thing. It's a different thing from your social media, from your cell phone, from whatever. It is actually sort of a hailing back to the oral tradition, right? And so I say it's a great thing. I say it's wonderful to keep that oral tradition.
Did you do the audio versions of your books?
I've never done it. I've had men do it. I've had women do it. I've had British accents. I've had Spanish accents. It's wonderful to see what they come up with, and they generally work.
Yeah, audio versions of books are wonderful because for people who don't have time to sit down and read, it gives them access to information they wouldn't always get. But for people who have limited reading skills, it enables them to learn something even though they may not be able to read the book. In my own case, when I do an interview, I tape it. And so when I do an audio version of my books, I have the original interview, we play that, and then I read the parts that I wrote as well. So I don't have readers reading it. I do it myself with the actual people I'm interviewing.
Well, we're going to show one more piece of video. This we showed at the beginning, but here again is the promotion for America's Book Club.
This fall, C-SPAN invites you on a powerful journey through the stories that define a nation. From the halls of our nation's most iconic libraries comes America's Book Club, a bold, original series where ideas, history, and democracy meet. Hosted by renowned author and civic leader David Rubenstein, each week features in-depth conversations with the thinkers shaping our national story. Among this season's remarkable guests, John Grisham, master storyteller of the American justice system. Justice Amy Coney Barrett, exploring the Constitution, the court, and the role of law in American life. Famed chef and global relief entrepreneur Jose Andres, reimagining food. Henry Louis Gates, chronicler of race, identity, and the American experience. The books, the voices, the places that preserve our past and spark the ideas that will shape our future. America's Book Club, premiering this fall, only on C-SPAN.
And there's the website, cspan.org/America's Book Club. You can see it there. More information on all the authors who are already booked for season 1. John Grisham, Arthur Brooks, David Grann, Walter Isaacson, Stacy Schiff, Amy Coney Barrett, Jose Andres. We've got, Marie and I are working on a couple other names we're not going to preview. We gave you Cal Ripken's already. Hosted by David Rubenstein, who already has 1 or 2 television shows on the air, but we were pleased that he agreed to do ours as well. These will be events that are hosted at the Library of Congress, at the National Archives, at the Folger Theater, the Shakespeare Theater, as well as Enoch Pratt Library in Baltimore, which is Mr. Rubenstein's home library in a sense, in many ways. So that is coming this fall, America's Book Club. Here's our first little item from America's Book Club. This is the bookmark, brass bookmark. If you email booktv@cspan.org and you're one of the first 25 to email, we'll send you one of these bookmarks, and we really appreciate it. We're handing them out here at the festival as well, so if you happen to be in the area, come on by. We want to thank author, philanthropist, businessman, Baltimore Orioles owner David Rubenstein, and host of America's Book Club. We also want to thank author and executive producer of America's Book Club, Marie Arana. Thank you both for being on the program today. We appreciate your giving us a preview of America's Book Club.
Well,
Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.